Come back into session. Do I have a second? Motion and second. All those in favor, aye. Opposed? Okay, and with that, at this point, we'd like to introduce Mayor Sal Panto, who is going to give us a presentation on the KOZ zone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I beg your indulgence. I know it's getting late. You guys have some big problems and some big issues. I just left the city council meeting where I presented our pension problems. As you know, we all have those kinds of pensions looming over us in the state of Pennsylvania. Matter of fact, right now, pension plans are unfunded in the state of Pennsylvania by $2.3 billion, and within the next 20 years, it'll rise to $14.9 billion. So ours is a little bit scarier because ours, in 2008, when I came in office, our minimum obligation for pensions that was mandated was $600,000 a year. That's our legacy cost. That's in excess of what we put in for our current employees. This year, it's $1.5 million, and next year we found out tonight it goes to $3.49 million. So it's a substantial increase on a budget of only $30 million. It's a substantial increase, and that's why economic development is so important. I know that I've been here before and I've been turned down, but I think this is a little different. Hi, Carrie. I think it's a lot different. Because of the properties that are in question. We're going to tell you about the KOZ because there's been a lot of misinformation. But before we do that, I'm going to just quickly run through our major, I'm sorry, you're going to have to turn around, yeah. Our major projects. See, if you were in Easton, our IT department would have monitors for all of you also. We were telling Tom how far ahead he is, and the school district's doing extremely well, believe me. Come back to the archaic ages in Easton, and we can show you that we're still using blackboards. The Simone Silk Mill is a very important project for us. It is a 364,000 square foot old 19th century industrial building. As a matter of fact, the story is, very truthful story, is that Herman Simone and his brother had a textile mill over in Union, New Jersey. And the way the city enticed him into Easton at that time was they built a mill. And they said, here, we have a mill, use it. And that grew from one building to 19 buildings on 14 acres. Now, the lower building in the right is where it says North 13th Street. That's the only building that was built in the 60s, and we've just torn that down, and you'll see the new entrance off of 13th Street. We'll take it right through the property. Good news about this is that's what it'll look like. The building is down in the upper right-hand corner, and of course, you have the new entranceway, a boulevard leading into the project off of 13th Street. And once they get back there, if you've been to our movies at the mill, you know it's a beautiful setting along the Bushkill Creek. Some great structures. All have been structurally sound. We've had all the engineering done. We've had all the environmental issues. We bought the building for $3.5 million with an RCAP from the state, and we've invested about another $1.5 million to $2 million in various types of improvements. The idea was, when I took office, is that we needed to put together a plan. No developer is going to spend $2 million doing their due diligence. So we did the due diligence. We did the master plan. We did everything with grants from the federal, state, or county government. And now we have a master plan of what we want that project to be. And the good news is we also have a developer who has signed on for phase one. Phase one is financed, and he has financing to do the rest of the project. The big project you've heard about downtown Easton, oh, by the way, the Silk Mill will be roughly mostly commercial. There will be some residential, but they'll all be one story, 90% of it will be one bedroom apartments for either empty nesters or young professionals. We're not looking for this to be a place where children would go. The Intermodal is a project that has a lot of rumors about it, especially because of the High School Sports Hall of Fame, which we think is a great addition to our tourism downtown. We came in 2008, we made our downtown economy based on arts, tourism, and entertainment. And I can tell you that arts, tourism, and entertainment right now put over $1.5 million of direct funding into our city budget. If they all walked away today, Crayola, State Theater, our restaurants would go out of business, and we would lose at least $1.5 million or more. So the Intermodal is another opportunity to do something that has been around for more than 10 years, actually 12 years, this is the third location that we've looked at, and we've now demolition, as you see, has been cleared. The Perkins Restaurant and the Marquee Restaurant, very suburban type developments, are now gone. We've bought the property for $3 million, and the project you see before you is a 35,000 square foot office building. Again, no residential use. The second floor only is the Sports Hall of Fame. If you're here, I encourage board members to come to Easton Area High School Day this year. The honoree is Phil Richards, a graduate of Easton High School who grew up on 6th and Walnut with a single mom. Today, he's extremely wealthy, and he credits Ann Maitland's father, John Maitland, for taking this little scrawny kid off of 6th Street, turning him into a wrestler. He got a full scholarship to Temple, where he became the student government president for 2 years and went on to law school. And today he lives out in Midwest in Minneapolis, major player in finance and insurances. So this is our project. It's roughly a $35 million project, of which the city is looking at $25 million to create just the vanilla box, and then the developer inside, whoever rents the spaces, will do their own. Again, no students, no children, therefore no students. Large tax ratable for the city and for the school district. This building is over on the city's south side, right next to Cheston Elementary School. It's been blighted for a number of years. Just last Wednesday, our city planning commission certified it as blighted. And what that allows the city to do, and your attorney and some of you know, that the school district can only condemn land by eminent domain for public uses, if you want to build another school or something. Same way with the city. However, if we can get a property certified blighted, we now have the opportunity to take that by condemnation and actually flip it to a private developer for private use. It's the only way we can do it. We've taken the major blighted properties in the city through that. There'll be a total of 21. Only 3 of them are major, and this is one of them. We would obviously work with the owner to try to get the owner to do something, but it's a large project that we feel could be put to a better taxable use. The taxes on this property are extremely low, as you will see. This is 118, 120, and across the street we also own a parking lot. That is our next major restoration for downtown Easton. Some people will say tear it down and make it a parking lot, but yet that gives none of us a tax ratable. We have developers who are interested. Gretchen Longenbach is here with me tonight, the Executive Director of Redevelopment Authority and the city's Community and Economic Development Director, along with our Vice Mayor and former school board member, Ken Brown. These projects would just make another missing tooth and not give the city any money or the school district. So we have people who are interested, and that's another one that we'll be talking about for KOZ. Governor Wolf Building, we all know and love it, the original high school. The McCartney Building next to it, that you can see in the lower side, the left side of the building, the south side of the building is the McCartney Building, which was the first girls' academy in the school. We know that the arch with its keystone is in the front of the building, and the county currently owns it. Again, you're not getting any taxes on this property either. And the county has told us that they are definitely want to sell it. They're going to consolidate into a different building with the building they have in Bethlehem and a building in this building, and consolidate into Bethlehem, into another area. They're looking at Graysdale, they're looking at Forks Industrial Parks, Palmer Industrial Parks, and they're going to put this on the market. I can tell you there's no way this project will sit there. It'll sit there if it doesn't have some type of incentive. And we'll talk about that in a minute. This is the Armory. Unfortunately, the city didn't buy it 25 years ago. It was offered. It is a beautiful building in needs of a lot of restoration, but these types of buildings don't happen without incentives. I was talking to a couple people earlier in the meeting, and you should know, I know you have your concerns about Governor Corbett and where he's headed with public education. As a former school teacher, I can only tell you, I am so dismayed. I am totally dismayed, and I think his ultimate goal is just to get rid of public education. And by the way, did you know public education was founded by the governor who grew up in Easton, Governor George Wolf. We named the Wolf School after him. 1861, he passed the Public Schools Act so that all kids can go to school, not just rich kids. So that happened. Public education had its birthplace here in the city. And that Wolf Building won't happen without it. But this governor has really tried to decimate public education and has really given you a tough road to hoe. I know that. The Armory is the same situation without some incentive. And the governor decided that over the last 4 years, the city has been very successful. We have over $60 million in federal, state, and county grants for economic development and public improvements. We have over $300 million of investment right now. If you look at the property values in the city of Easton, unlike many other cities, our property values are actually going up. So your tax base in the city is going up, probably the first time in 20 years. So that's the good news. The bad news is the governor doesn't want to give these developers these big checks anymore. What he wants to do is give them incentives. So he has the KOZ and LRTA, instead of giving them a check, incentivize them to develop these old buildings. This is one of them that has been vacant for 25 years, and it needs a KOZ. But we're also doing little projects that I really am proud of, because I think that's where we really want to be. Ferry Street and Pine Street we've taken as the corridor that we wanted to do some projects on and try to change the neighborhoods one building at a time, one family at a time. And you can see on the top left is 672 prior to total reconstruction. And there you have with the nice yellow-orange fence. That's the artsy-fartsy type place, because it's very modern, as you can see. Whereas if you come over to 733 Ferry Street, on the bottom right-hand corner, the outside has been maintained with all brand-new windows and upgrades, roofing, all that. But the inside issue, if you look at the inset on the left, you can see it's the very open space like you'd see. When I walk into that house, I think of a New York loft. And the second floor, we have a young family living there, no school-age children. The child that's there is beyond school. These projects have become very, very fruitful for the city, putting dilapidated old buildings back on the tax rolls. And the good news for the city, the school district, is there's very few students that are actually in these buildings. We have young professionals moving in to these places, and I can tell you, how many have we done now? About 12?
I think they're completed or in process.
Yeah, about 12, 15. And that would be for the LRTA program. That's what we're looking at. So let's talk about the Keystone Opportunity Zone, and I'm going to give you a real brief education on this, because I understand why the board denied it last time, and I understand the financial constraints you're in. I just gave you one of mine that I'm in for next year. I have about a $3.5 million budget deficit as well on a $30 million budget. So it's pretty much the same as yours when it comes to percentages. Okay, we were about $1.5 million. Now we add another $1.5 million to our pension fund next year, so it's a $3 million gap. But if we don't start investing in the future, there's no money that we can obviously look forward to down the line. These projects are projects that need an incentive, and especially with the governor telling us that's the only way he's going to go. We've outlined in 2010, when I came here, this was the number of KOZs that we wanted, and this is what we're asking for today.
I'm sorry, that was what we had.
Oh, that's what we had. This is what we asked for then. And you can see it's quite a few parcels. And the next one is what we're asking for tonight. The 100 block of Northampton Street that I showed you, the Intermodal, the Governor Wolf Building, the Silk Mill, the Black Diamond, and the Armory, all of them combined is a little about 24 acres, and all of them combined are, let's see, the 100 block of Northampton Street is or will be publicly owned. There's no taxes being paid on it. The Intermodal site is publicly owned. There's no taxes. The Governor Wolf Buildings and Silk Mill, all of them are the same. The only two that you're actually getting anything from, I think, if you are luckier than us to be collecting it, is the Black Diamond Silk Mill on the south side by Cheston School and the Armory. And I believe if you're going to look at this, you'll see it's not a lot of money. So KOZ came about. It has a great program to help rehabilitate the program. Big difference between last time I was here. Those developers, or those property owners, I should say, they got the tax abatement even if they didn't put a dime of investment in the building. This is a big difference. If the Armory or Black Diamond or one of them is not developed in 10 years, it goes away. You didn't get any money and we didn't get any money, but they're not getting a tax break. Whatever they're paying today, they're paying. They don't get it abated like they did under the old law. So it's a major change in the law from before and after. This is where you can find the guidelines. We have handouts for you. These are the taxes to be waived. Locally, you will see it's the earned income tax, the business privilege tax, and the property tax that we're asking for a waiver. But you will also notice that the state makes even a bigger sacrifice with corporate tax, capital stock, personal income tax, sales and use tax, the thrift institution tax, the bank and trust company shares tax, and of course the insurance premiums tax. Because they believe in this so much that they'd rather give the incentive to develop than give a big check. Here's what you're looking at. You're looking at right now on all those buildings, you're getting roughly $9,584 if the two are paying. I'm going to gather that they're probably a year or two in arrears. Don't know that for sure from the school district, but I can assume that. Even if they're not, you're getting roughly $9,584. None of the other buildings have any of the taxes because they're all publicly owned. If the potential sites are developed as we think they can be, and you would go from roughly $9,500 to $1,093,000 over the course of when they come back on the line in 2023. Now that's a lot to give up until then, but you're not going to have any additional students, and you're not going to have any additional costs because the projects that we have are not. We're not talking about children. We're talking about young professionals or empty nesters. All of them will either be one bedroom or a one bedroom with an office. Black Diamond, I will tell you, and you know, if you tell me you don't want it because it's probably going to be a residential neighborhood, then I'll understand. But the Armory will not be children. We have several developers, if we can get them the right incentives, are interested in moving forward on it. There's no children involved, no residentials at all. The others will not be any children either. So if you're telling me, because Black Diamond, I believe, should be destroyed, and a beautiful neighborhood. It is. And I can tell you right now, I have a Lehigh Valley builder who would love to go in here and build buildings. He's from Bethlehem, and he'd love to do it if I can get the lot for him. But I understand you may not be wholly in favor of that. But if you look at it as a whole, you're not giving up a lot because those children are not going to be more than probably 20 to 25 students in that neighborhood if it was built as a new neighborhood. But you can see we all do well if we had the KOZ. It's a regional application, and that's where I want to talk to you about tonight. When we started this, we did not have a lot of time. Our timeline was very short. We appreciate the ability to get on your agenda today, but we recently learned that Bethlehem has decided not to join in the county application, and frankly, we're too small to do it on our own. Now, DCED has said that they will try to get us in on another region because Wilson is also looking at the Dixie plant. But we have a feeling that this isn't something that you need to do in the next 30 days like we originally anticipated. We have a feeling that this is something that may come about in 9 months to a year, where we would need to come back and ask for your support. I'd be more than happy to answer questions over the next 6 to 9 months. I'd love to have a resolution tonight, but I don't need that at this point, so I'm not asking for it. You have big troubles ahead, I know that. So we're going to ask you to table. We'll put it on the table. We'll put KOZ on the table, put it on the back burner, and say, let us come back again, and if you really have a problem with one or two of those sites, we'll talk about it. We're not here, we're here as a partner. Believe me, I don't want to push money down the line either. I plan on being in office, and I have big budget problems. But I also know that my budget problems aren't answered on the revenue side. I have to answer my budget problems on the expense side, and that's how we've done it over the last 4 years. We have not had a property tax increase in the city in 5 years, and I can tell you one thing, that is unheard of in the last 25 years. Every year it was 2 to 3, 5, 4 mills. It's tough, and we all know it, and it's not getting any easier when you get actuarials like we did tonight. So we're going to skip the timetable, which we originally were looking forward, because I don't really think that we need it right away. But I do want to tell you that LRTA is something we would like to do. LRTA is brought to you for a real good reason. Number one, you lose no money. You don't lose a dime. Whatever taxes are being paid now, they're not wiped out. You continue to get those taxes. This was the LRTA that was proposed in 2007. And this is the proposal for 2012. And I know it looks like a lot of land in the downtown and the corridor. But understand, the number one issue, nothing happens unless there's major rehabilitation. If somebody buys a building downtown, a nice brownstone, and paints it and puts people in, that's not a major rehabilitation. If they buy 119 and 120, which is totally gutted, and put $2 million into it, that's a major restoration. So, and also, when you're looking at the downtown area and the corridor, remind yourself that, well, number one, the Cottingham School is in that building, and that building's in that corridor, and that may be an incentive that you're going to need. And also remember that most of the downtown are places that won't be done. City Hall, Crayola Center, State Theater. I mean, that list goes on and on and on but we were trying to just give you an area. Over and to the top left, you have the silk mill, which we're going to ask for. However, I will temper that by saying, if later we get the KOZ, LRTA goes away. You don't get both, okay? So we'd like to put the same KOZ, the 6 KOZ projects in the LRTA program, but they go away if KOZ does come about in the next 6 to 10 months. So up on the left is silk mill. On the south side, you see the big block in the middle of south side is the Black Diamond. And the little spotted ones you see is Neston Heights. And I'd really like to talk to you about Neston Heights because that's really the reason why we came here and started looking at LRTA again. Neston Heights is the old Delaware Terrace. What can I tell you? 250 low-income housing, highest crime population in the city, densely populated with over 432 children, and a lot of problems. City went for a Hope 6 project. We are putting $1 million. We have given, the city of Easton has given that developer $1 million of our money to do that project. That project has completely changed not only that neighborhood, but the entire south side. Yes, we had a shooting about 2 weeks ago on a Sunday night. I know the press is here. We haven't released a lot of things about the shootings that we've had, and they're all, not one is related. All suspects have been captured and caught except for one. And they're not related. They're not even drug related. Well, one was drug related, 3 weren't, 2 were domestics. This one was a domestic over a Wii game. Wii, okay? They were playing Wii. Cousins got mad at each other, started fisticuff inside the house. 2 guys leave, boom, boom. Fortunately, none of those 2 were killed. That family has already been evicted. They're gone. They're no longer in there. We will not tolerate. It's zero tolerance. They sign a lease that says they're not even allowed to have a weapon in the building. If they're a hunter, they got to keep their gun someplace else. They're not allowed to have any drugs in the building. So that situation is taken care of. Now, why are we here for LRTA? Well, as with you see our Ferry Street corridor rehab target area, if I buy a house in Neston Heights right now, we went from 250 to 140 homes. 40 are senior citizens, no kids. 50 are low-income rentals, your typical public housing, except they're screened. This one did get through. They're screened. And 50 are owner-occupied. They buy the house. But unfortunately, in order to buy a house there, you also have federal caps on your family income. So the household income is capped, a family of 4, at $48,000. So what happens is the person comes in, wants to buy the house, they're bankable, they get the mortgage approved, but when the county puts the assessed value on the house, they do the formula at 0.31 of the value, and pretty soon their taxes are coming out at $4,800 a year, $400 a month, and that makes them not bankable anymore. What we were asking is with LRTA is on all these projects, is LRTA is a program that caps the increase at 10% a year over 10 years. Now, it can eliminate it for 10 years. It can go up 20% every 2 years, but we're not asking for that. We don't want to give up the tax revenue either. What we're asking for is LRTA would be the base, whatever the person's base is now, and then 10% a year. So if they're paying let's say $500, which is about right, or $400 a year, $400 a month in taxes, they would be starting out at about $200 a month, what they normally were paying, and then every year it would go 200, 220, 400, 244, and go up 10% a year until 10 years where you get a break. Here's the good news. The good news is that there's only expected to be about let's see, went from 432 to 182 students. That's the good news because you're going to get about $250,000 to $300,000 in tax revenues that you got 0 before because the whole thing was tax exempt. But now you're going to get $250,000 in taxes each year. The program is stopped over there. People cannot get bankable. What the banks are willing to do is say, okay, they're going to get a 10% increase, but their salaries will be going up. So they'll be able to pay those types of taxes in the future. I will tell you personally, I live on South Side. I live 2 blocks from this facility in Lackner Heights. My taxes aren't much more than theirs. And I have a 2,800 square foot stone home, 2-car detached garage, in-ground pool, and a double lot. The assessment on a new home, as you know, if you've built a new home in the townships, they really whack you. I mean, I know people that are paying, for condominiums up at Riverview, they were paying $9,500 a year in taxes for a small condominium because the county is going to assess you at the stick bill. And that's what's happening in Easton on these lots. Now, it happens on every new home in the city. We're not asking for that. Because if somebody wants to build a new home in the city, they should be able to afford the taxes. This is a cap on the income that pretty much has stalled. And of course, I should mention that 6 of these are already started, so they don't count. So we're really only asking for 44. Because 6 that already started construction, nobody's buying them, has already started. So, whoops, there we go. LRTA. If you look at the big issues, okay, including Neston Heights, the 39 lots in Neston Heights, you will see that total assessed value is about $2.6 million. The school district between 2012 and 2022, yeah, it's like going by itself now, huh? It's that good IT department we have at the city. What you're going to see, and you're going to go up to, there we go. Here's 2012. Your current taxes right now would be about $26,000. And over the next 10 years, you would go from $26,000 to $7.2 million. That's total for 10-year period, right? So that's what we're asking for. It's a vision that, well, I'll show you. And then each year, you would get $1.2 million plus any increase. Now, if you increase taxes, over 12 years, you do get that bump as well. I mean, they pay that extra bump. If you go up 2.2%, they get that 2.2%. They pay that. LRTA is used all across the state. Just gave you an idea of some of the ones in the, not the immediate area, but the area. Bethlehem has it. We had it. The city of Easton had it for 10 years. Palmer Township has it. Had it. Not, they don't have it anymore. That's our LRTA schedule, which we would like to stick to. Making our presentation tonight and consideration by the board at your meeting. LRTA is a program, unlike KOZ, that really does benefit everyone because it spurs development and it doesn't give you the no taxes for 10 years. It gives you your base plus 10% a year for 10 years. Even in the first year, we would agree that if somebody comes in and rehabilitates a house into an office building, let's say, in this county area, their taxes, let's say their school tax is $1,000 this year. And next year, their assessment takes them up, their new assessed value. They paid a $1,000 base. The only thing that goes up to 10%, let's say it goes up another $1,000, it doubles, then they get that 10% on that 1,000, not on the 2,000. So it's $1,100 the second year. And then it's $1,250 the second year goes up. You never lose your base. It's always on top of the base. Even if, for some reason, the base is less than the 10%, they pay the base. They never get a credit. They always pay extra. And that's the summary of what we're trying to do. I mean, that's it. I understand your financial positions. Believe me, I do, because I go through them every day. And the legacy costs are killing municipalities and school districts. As I said tonight in my opening, nothing against any former official, former council members, former union members, nothing against anyone. It's reality. Public pensions are very, very premium, deficient, and benefit rich. And there's such a difference in the difference that it really is going to cost someone has to pay the piper. And right now it's municipalities because the state's not doing anything. I can't tell you the last time the state did anything to help the local municipalities. And I consider school district isn't considered a municipality. So I'll gladly take any questions you have. Gretchen's here, Vice Mayor Brown is here. And I hope you have some good questions because we're not looking just to, push this through. It's a program that cities all across the state and townships and boroughs are utilizing. As I said, Wilson Borough's looking at the Dixie plant. I mean, how much longer do we want to look at that place before someone probably gets killed by falling through a floor or something? That's what it comes down to. We have tax ratables that aren't giving any value to these municipalities or to the school districts. These are programs that were meant to change that by giving someone an incentive to do that. Anybody can go out and build, I was with a builder, 2 builders. I'm not, I worked for Mr. Schrin and I worked for Mr. Strausser. And between the 2 of them, I did a lot of development in the last 16 years. But it was never, very few of them were in town. Gary Strausser did the former Crayola factory when I was with him and did the former Shaw School. That doesn't happen often. And the reason he did Shaw is I think he paid $55,000 for that building and the ball field. So there was the incentive he had. If you would have asked him to pay the value of it, he probably wouldn't have ever bought it. So there was an incentive to him by giving him a cut rate. You may have to do the same thing on the Cottingham building. You don't know. You have no clue what that's going to bring. But if you want to unload the expenditure, you have to make some sacrifices. That's what we're asking for here. Yep. Yep.
Thank you. I just wanted to elaborate a little bit on the KOZ deadline. The mayor mentioned the June 1st date. The Senate bill that was recently passed actually has 2 rounds of KOZ. The first one was very quick, and it was 4 unused designations from the 2008 KOZ that no one took advantage of or the DCD didn't award. The second round will be very early in 2013. There will be 15 designations at the state level available. I think they've said 6 of them are kind of already spoken for, but that would leave 9 that would be competitively available. So originally the region wanted to jointly apply and try to make that June 1st deadline. We're too small, as the mayor said, to get our own designation. They're typically around 350 acres. And so we were going to partner with Wilson, Bethlehem, possibly even Allentown. Bethlehem having to approach 2 different school districts, Bethlehem and Saucon Valley, has explored it and has started conversations, but we don't think they're going to be able to make the deadline. And the county has also expressed an interest in doing 1 application to the state instead of 1 this round and then 1 the next round. So that being said, the mayor and I and others have suggested that we perhaps continue to pursue our timeline, and LRTA is more of an urgent matter for us, as the mayor discussed, with the Neston Heights and the developers' desire to continue building there. But with KOZ, we do have the flexibility to be able to wait a little bit. If you do choose to move forward and address the resolution, we can still use that resolution in the early 2013 application to DCD, but we also have the option to wait a little bit as the other municipalities approach their school boards and we ultimately all approach the county. So I just wanted to add some clarification on that. Thank you.
One last thing I'm going to mention about LRTA, especially for Neston Heights. Neston Heights children do not change unless you change the neighborhood, the environment. The environment prior to Neston Heights was an environment of all low-income, subsidized housing. Those kids had no mentors. They had no friends that were doing well in school. The idea here, and it's worked in every Hope 6 project that the HUD has approved, the idea here is that kids are going to live next door to other kids that they don't know whether they're subsidized or not. They have no clue. But they're going to be with real families that are growing up, and they're going to have mentors. And so hopefully the types of problems we have in the school district from kids from that type of an environment are gone. And that is the goal. The goal is not to give them a nice home. The goal is to change behavior. And the only way, we all know, you're educators, the only way we change behavior is by changing the environment. And that's what this does. Yes, Mr. Arntz. Black Diamond.
Black Diamond. And you said something, I think I heard you say, that there would probably be housing.
The owner right now wants to make it a business incubator. I don't know where he can get the dollars, the financing to do that, we would love to see a business incubator there. But the only interest we've had since I've been in office is for residential housing.
Okay, now my limited experience in redevelopment, et cetera, I'm just gonna give you an example, because that's what I'm pointing at here. If that area were completely demolished, and you had a big chunk of land there, I'm wondering, the reason why I'm saying this is my brother lives in Tampa, and they are going through a redevelopment in Tampa, and they had no idea what was gonna happen. But in one of the communities that was really run down, it was in really bad shape, they flattened it. They got rid of all the houses. Instead of building new houses, they built a huge indoor soccer facility. And they charge for people to use it by the hour. And it runs 24 hours a day, every day. And when I first heard about this, am I allowed to say that I heard about this before?
Yes. There was only 3 of you in the meeting. You're allowed, you're allowed 4.
You know, the school board has really limited so-called speech, free, whatever. But I certainly have changed my way, let's put it that way. I was just sitting here thinking, you know, that would make a hell of a place for that kind of facility. They're building one up on 33, off of 33, on the way to Stroudsburg. I don't know if anybody rides up that way, but they're building an indoor facility, but it's going to be not only soccer, but it's going to be baseball, football, and you can, you know, have an organization, an AAU team or whatever, and rent the time, have baseball game on a, you know, Sunday night at 2 o'clock, softball, whatever. And it just brings in all kinds of money. So that's what I was thinking. That would be a great place for one. All we need to do is find somebody who'd be willing to knock it down and build it back up. I mean, I can see all kinds of potential in this kind of thing. And
Well, the other thing I should have mentioned, that even if it went residential, it would be a multi-use residential, so that the number of students is cost benefit to you. What we do is we take the number of students and multiply it by the cost per student that you do every year. Mike would provide that number. It's probably, what, about 13 or 14,000 now? A little below. Because I know when I did Riverview Estates, we had to do that. So that what we would do is we would do some senior cottages, and we would do some apartments, and then some residential units, so that you had a mixed use, so that if the taxes that were generated were $350,000, you don't have $350,000 worth of cost. So even on a residential project, we would guarantee that. But that's another use. I mean, we would love to have that. Although maybe we should just put the dome over Cottingham Stadium.
Mr. President, I have a comment. Gretchen, can you bring up Black Diamond Enterprises picture, please? For me, I've been looking at the LERTA for about a month and a half, and I've been looking at other things and trying to pick things that were wrong about it. I'll be honest, I'm always looking for to have a better answer than the mayor. He's been getting me on everything. So I'd like to throw something at him that I could get ahead on him, but I never do. But
You will.
but no, honestly, representing the South Side, West Ward, growing up, born and raised there, I think the LERTA program is a phenomenal program. It promotes home ownership. It gives people a reason to come in to take pride in their homes. I asked to bring up Black Diamond, and I know Jim Case can cover my back on this one. What you don't see there is on both sides of the building are main roads that our children from Cheston travel to and from school daily. I have numerous emails. I spoke to Mr. Case about it. I know we cannot do anything as a school board. The principal, the security, there are huge safety concerns. The fences You know, parents are worried about kids being pulled through the fences. Ms. Jones knows about it. That property needs to be developed. I am a friend of the owner. We have lunch a couple times a month. He doesn't have the resources to develop it. We need to put an incentive out there so people will develop it. You know, on this property, it's more, for me, it's a safety issue. This is something that's been discussed for years. Parents are worried, the community's worried, our school is worried. There's a tremendous safety concern. As far as the other properties, the West Ward and things, we're getting the same base that we're getting now. We're not taking a loss, and I believe we'll get the increments based on the reassessed value, correct? After it's done. So as we talked about the 811 building, and everything was about the community and the West Ward and building up and taking care of the West Ward, this is giving people that already own that property in the West Ward incentive to beautify their community, to beautify the same community that we have worked for, that Kerry was with me with the 811 building. And again, we're not losing anything. We're giving an incentive, and we're going to be gaining. So I really like the LERTA program, and you know, I hope our board members will feel the same.
Sal, different question on this. You know, Frank just hit on it a little bit with the reassessment. Eventually, yes, it goes up, but also what we've seen off of some of these programs, and it happened here in Palmer and everything as well, and I've seen it in various communities, after the building's built and everything, the builder then goes back for a reassessment. But instead of the assessment, you know, it comes up at, let's say, 2 million, they go in for reassessment, and it goes down to $1 million. So really, the tax dollars that you're projecting, you don't necessarily get. And you've seen that as well?
We haven't seen it as much in the city. The city's assessed values are relatively low compared to the rest of the school district. As I told you, my house assessed value is $64,000. That means it's worth $128,000. Get me 10 of them, because I'll buy them in a heartbeat. We have older homes. So when people look at our millage rate of being 24.95 mils, it's because a mill of taxes in Easton only generates $340,000. We would love to see, I personally would like to see reassessment, because I believe that we should reassess at the real value and then lower the millage rate. And I would agree to holding property taxes level for 3 years if the county did that. Reassessment is so misunderstood. It's not meant to be a drawback for people. It's meant to be an incentive. I want my house to be assessed at what it really should be assessed at. What happens when you try to bring industry in here and they look at Northampton County, the assessed value is so low they think we're some third world country because they're 25, 30 years old through the whole county. And yet that is not what happened over the last 30 years. We've really grown. Or well, they'll take Lafayette College and say, well, we're not going to reassess that because, you know, they don't pay taxes anyway. And then all of a sudden you realize that they have Lafayette College assessed at like, I don't know, $30 million. And, you know, they put that much into their stadium 3 years ago. So that's my problem with reassessed value, because we have not seen people going for reassessment. The properties that we're getting assessed new values on, like the Pomeroy building, he'd be hard-fetched to go back in for reassessment, because his assessment is all, even when they add his assessment, the formula brings it down to something that's less than what it'd be if he built the same building with 23 apartments and 2 commercial units in the township. It's still much less. So when the Board of Reassessment looks at it, they're going to say, the comparables in Palmer are much higher than what yours are, so they don't give it to them. So that's the good news in Easton. The townships do have that problem. I agree.
Okay. And when you talked earlier, you talked about the 10 years and everything. Have there been structures, because sometimes I've seen the structures where, okay, it's 100% of a tax break, and over the years it dwindles down, that by the time you get to the 10th year, you're down to 20% or whatever. And you do adjustments like that, so you're actually acquiring some value as it goes on in time. Also, that it starts day one, so that you don't get a developer that waits 5 years into the program, in other words, 5 years from now, and then we'll start construction. They can do that, right?
Well, yeah, we have safeguards for that. We agree with you.
Okay.
The second part of your comment was, with KOZ, there's a fixed 10-year timeline, January 1st, 2013, 10 years from there. So if someone purchases a property and rehabilitates it 5 years into that timeline, they only get 5 years' worth of the benefit. LRTA does not work that way. When you go in for your construction permit, that's when you apply for LRTA. And if your property has been designated in a district, your 10-year period starts at that point in time, and your year zero basically starts then.
Unless the school district would say 10 years is going to start at the end of 2012, and you only allow 10 years from then for it to work. And if the school districts, because the school district and the city can be on different terms.
I think the way we have it structured currently is that there's one ordinance which defines the terms at the city, and this is how they were handling it currently in Bethlehem. The city has the ordinance, and then all of the taxing bodies pass resolutions that specify the property. So the ordinance is the same for all the taxing bodies. You can have different timelines as far as how often you decide to renew your resolution. And so if 3 years from now you decide that you want to change the resolution and take parcels out of the LRTA or not approve the same district, you can do that, and then anyone who enters it after that would be subject to those terms, but people that are already in the LRTA, it wouldn't affect them. I know that's not specifically what you asked, but that's how that would work. I think, though, the way we have the ordinance set up, and we'll be reading the amended ordinance tomorrow night at City Council, it will require that all 3 taxing bodies participate for the LRTA to take effect, because we think that's how we get the most effect and that it's fair for everyone. But that's how it works from a timeline standpoint for the 2 different programs.
And the reason is because the KOZ abates the dollars, and the LRTA doesn't. You're not giving up anything, you're getting 10% a year more.
As I said, I think, because we did a different timeline that time with, who did the building over on Glendon? Reedman. Yeah.
The
Because
ordinance
with-
can be 5 years, 20
Yeah,
years
you
a
can-
year, but this is what we've chosen.
Yeah, you can do 5 years at 20% a year,
But
Right.
everyone would have to do the
but,
same.
yeah.
No, I think that actually, the Glendon did one thing, and they actually had their timeline that began whenever the person started and took out the permits. Okay? The school district did a different time frame, and I think the county went along with the borough of Glendon.
Okay,
So there were actually 2 different running parallel.
we can check that.
My understanding is that the county actually adjusts the assessed value that it shows on the NC Pub website every year. So it actually is changing the assessed value to add 10% of the,
Right.
they're keeping a separate record what the actual assessment is and then what it is for taxing purposes, and they go in and change it every year.
I believe the school district also passed a resolution some time ago where if they do an assessment, the school district has the right to go in and meet prior to that before they make a change.
Okay, that would be, as I said, you see this other. But the advantage and the reason for that being done, that you set the date and the start date and an end date, is only because that somebody doesn't wait out 5 years and then start to go and figure they're getting 10 years out from there. We actually saw that happen with some developers, and because we actually put something else in place, it forced the issue to do it now. Some of the people did lose 5 years, just the same as they did in the KOZ then.
Okay. Certainly look at that as well.
Mayor Pano, I just wanted to
Carrie,
say
I
that,
recognize that voice.
way over here, and
Yeah, you're all by
they set
yourself.
me off, but they gave me an extra chair to put my leg up, so that was good. I just wanted to say, number one, that, I, as one board member, and I think most of the board members feel that we definitely want to establish a very strong partnership with the city
I agree with
in
that.
all issues across the board. I think that's the best way to go forward for our citizens, especially for our youth, and the collective and collaborative effect of us working significantly with the city is very important. I had concerns about the KOZ, and I still do, and I'd love to get into conversation with you
Sure.
regarding that, especially if that comes down the road that we need to visit that issue. The LRTA, you're including the KOZ properties in the LRTA, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if it came to be that you were going to do the KOZs, then
They would lose their
those
LRTA.
properties would switch over?
Yes.
Okay,
You can't take advantage of both programs.
right, okay. The LRTA, I feel much more comfortable with, because I feel that we're not losing And you know, I mean, you weren't here at our budget conversation tonight, and I don't know if you heard our last budget workshop, but certainly the district is as in a difficult position as you are, without a doubt, and beyond belief. So the KOZ is a difficult pill to swallow. And I would, again, invite some conversation with you.
Sure.
And would love to
There will be
meet with you
plenty of time to
regarding
do that. That'd be
Okay.
fine.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Test my debate skills.
Perfect.
Anything else? Well, thank you very much.
Hang on one
Oh.
second. I have to ask if there's anybody in the audience that would
That's
like to
right.
address the issue.
Sorry.
I'm not seeing any hands going up,
Thank
so
you.
thank you. Are there any other comments by the board members this evening? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to conclude the committee meeting. We have a second there, I think. Frank? No, we did not. You're correct. There wasn't a whole lot. Basically, the boiler replacement, and next meeting, we will also be voting on the preliminary budget, along with potentially now an agreement for the city on the Alerta. Yeah. Okay. And do I have a second? Got a second. So all those in favor, aye? Opposed?